Welcome to Founders Future, a podcast powered by Closers.io, where we dive into the journeys of innovative entrepreneurs and explore the road ahead for them and their companies. I'm your host, Ammar, and in each episode, we uncover the stories behind impactful ventures, the challenges faced along the way, and the strategies driving their future growth. Today, we are absolutely thrilled to be joined by Kirk Williams, the founder of Zato Marketing, a paid search marketing agency specializing in PPC advertising through the Google AdWords search network, YouTube, display network, and Bing ads. Kirk is a recognized thought leader in the PPC community, an author, conference speaker, and a true practitioner when it comes to Google Ads strategy and execution. With clients ranging from 7 to 9-figure businesses, Zato has carved a niche in delivering high-impact paid traffic strategies. Kirk, welcome to Founders Future.
Thanks, Ammar. Appreciate it. Glad to be here.
Anytime. I'm excited to dive in. I always like to start from the beginning. Take me on a little trip down memory lane to before you started Zato Marketing. What were you doing at the time? And then what was really the motivation behind starting the company?
Yeah, so I was actually pursuing a master's degree in theology, if you can believe that. So big shift from where I am now. As I've talked to a lot of people, and maybe you've run into this too, it is funny how much on the digital side, either tech or marketing or that, like a lot of people didn't start doing this. They didn't go to school for what they're doing now. And we all are figuring it out and switch
Yeah.
gears, right? So yeah, so the it's a little funny because the short of it is I was working overnight and it was actually at Target, a Target big box store, and I was stocking shelves overnight, and then I'd go to class my and pursue my master's there. And I only say that just because the level of thinking that you have to do is just going to be greater than high school or bachelor's. And I was trying to do that with no sleep, and I was about dead. My wife was working during the days. We would high five on our way, and I only did that for a few months. And I was like, I cannot keep doing this. I will take the next job that comes along, and it was marketing. And so I had never thought I'm going to get into marketing. I didn't have any interest or not or disinterest. Just fell into it, and then a friend was like, "Hey, we're hiring our little e-commerce brand, and you can come in and do this." And I was like, "Sure, I'll do that." And
Okay.
yeah, so then that's where I got into got into actual marketing itself, and then all you can dig into whatever you want to or that. But then actually, I was approached by the team saying, "Hey, would you like to get into PPC, the digital advertising, Google Ads? Would you like to learn? We're thinking about starting that at our small brand." And I was like, "Sure." So learned what I was doing there. Eventually was like, hey, I kind of doing this. Got a few clients on my own. Eventually broke off, did my own thing, have a few
Nice.
employees, and that's where I've been. That was about 14 years ago that I quit my job and jumped in feet first. So yeah, that was can't believe it's almost been 15 years. So
I love it, man. It's so true, especially in the agency world. We've worked with thousands. I've talked to hundreds at this point. Very rarely does somebody grow up being like, I'm going to get into digital marketing.
yeah,
It's
I'm
not
gonna
really.
start an ad agency.
Yeah, exactly. It's very rare. But it sounds like you stumbled upon it in a sense. A friend told you about X, and then people reached out, hey, can you do PPC? Can you do this? And it sounds like you were working somewhere else, started this on the side, got a few clients, and then transitioned over. Is that fairly accurate?
Yeah, that is. This was definitely my side. Like I said, I was in the PPC world. That was what my job was. But yeah, actually starting to get my own clients was that side gig thing. And I did that for a little bit, a year or so before actually deciding, yeah, deciding to actually go in and do that full time. And that itself is a story. We had our first kid on the way. We were moving. And one of those things where if I'm looking back, I'd be like, hey, I don't know if that was the wisest decision to do at that time with all the chaos, but I'm really glad I did it. I'm glad I'm on this side of it.
Yeah.
So sometimes
Sometimes
you just jump in. Yeah.
100%. You take that leap of faith, you put yourself in uncomfortable situations, and then hopefully you grow out of it. And it
Yeah.
sounds like for you, it worked for the best. Let's fast forward to give the listeners more context into what Zato looks like today. Who would you say is your ideal customer? Who do you love to work with? And then from there, we can dive into the different offers and services.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say probably like an e-commerce client size, they're probably spending 150,000 a month on Google Ads. They're big enough where we can get data and try fun things and that, but not so big that they need an entire team to manage. We're just a small team. There's 6 of us, and then we have a few contractors we work with as well that help us and on a couple of accounts. And so, yeah, we just try to do it well. One of the things that I've tried to do, so I actually did a TEDx talk about this. I've written 2 books, and one of them is on this. It's called Stop the Scale. That was my TEDx talk as well. But
Mm,
just this idea of like, how can I be really good at what I'm doing? How can I improve? How can I grow within what I'm able to grow the business? I'm not against growth and hiring and people and that sort of thing, but it's just always been really important to me that never outpace like the quality of service that we offer. And so that sometimes specifically, it's not just quality of service, actually, it's even things like my employees, my family, like our mental and physical health is part of that. Just like, how do we do a good job of challenging ourselves and not becoming complacent, lazy, but also like enjoying the life we're living and just
yeah,
being wise about that. And so
yeah,
so that's been part of our DNA as well, I think. That's a big part of that story too.
yeah, I like that. So balancing out obviously growth, scale, more revenue, etc., with quality of life, which is huge.
Quality of life, and I do think like product or service quality is
Mm,
also part of that.
or
And some of that is like a personal thing. I just try to look at it like, what is, if I were a brand owner, like who would I want to hire, either as an employee or an agency? And I think it's so common in agency life where you get someone, oftentimes it's like a very charismatic owner, agency owner. They're really good at selling. And sometimes they just expand so much faster than they're able to deliver on those
no,
services.
yeah.
And like I look at that and I'm just like, man, I don't really want to do that. I always want to be able to, at the end of the day, say, man, we tried our best on this client, as opposed to, gosh, we really missed it because we were more focused on growing our own brand, sort of a deal.
Mm,
So sometimes that means we don't take on quite as many clients that we could at one time. Yeah. But then there's that other piece as well, like you talked about too, that does work into it. So like I'm a little picky on who will take on the types of clients. And so we try to we even have our own like vetting process just so that we like working on the accounts as well. And so that also can hinder real aggressive scaling because we're saying no to some clients just because we don't think they'll be a good fit, as opposed to just
mm,
saying yes all the time.
yeah, yeah. It's better to be in a position where you can turn people down than if you're trying to get everybody under the sun, right?
Mm.
Through though, what does the typical client engagement looks like? So, are we working together for 3 months, 6 months, 12 months? Is it none of the above? Walk me through what that typically looks like.
Yeah, I would have to look. It's funny. I was just talking to one of my team members here, and he was going through our client base and like trying to calculate like what is the longevity in that. And so far as we can tell, we tend to have our clients for years as opposed to months. So I forget what it was. I think it was like a couple of years or something on average. And then that'll obviously depend. I think we still have a client that I started working with like 13 or 14 years ago, actually. Yeah, and then, of course, we'll have some clients where everything seems good, and then we'll get connected, and then for whatever reason, it's not always a good fit, and that can be a quicker engagement, but that tends to be on the rare side for us. I do think some of that is attributed just to the fact that we do try to think through, hey, are we actually going to be a good fit for this account?
Mm,
Can we help them?
yeah.
Are we good fit personality, all this stuff, and just trying to like make sure all of that. And that probably is part of that longevity, is we're trying to think through some of that stuff beforehand too.
Yeah. So I guess when you think of the future, because you mentioned scale a couple times, you want to grow, but you also want to balance it with other aspects of client results and quality of life. What does success look like for you, let's say over the next 12 months, personally and professionally?
Hmm. Yeah. I don't know if this is me failing or what, but I don't have a number. So success for me isn't a number. Success for me, and it's funny, this is basically what I did my TEDx talk on, which was basically like redefining business success. And it's three core things that I've come up with. Other people have contributed also. But the first would be like, are you achieving the purpose for which your business exists? So I want, like I said, to me, success is, am I offering excellent, high quality PPC service to my clients? They might not always see that. There may be ways that we'll work in an account, and even to our best ability, it won't grow like they want and they try someone else or whatever. But again, some of that is do I think that, hey, my team did the best we could? So I look at that and I'm like, hey, I think that's a measure of success. I think I can hold my head high at the end of the day. But then also the second one for me is, but then also like money does matter, right? We're in business. So like also there is some level of monetary profitability, of revenue growth. Also, that's naturally a part of business. If your objective is to do well with clients, then oftentimes that means, hey, the longer we keep them and we're getting more leads in, there's going to be some level of growth to that. But again, like I want to make sure that's always in conjunction with the quality of service that we offer. And then the third thing for me with success is a little bit more subjective, but it's this aspect of, I don't know, like mental, emotional, physical health, and or am I in a good place, and what, as like a person. And what I mean by that is, I just think you hear so many stories of like really wealthy people who on their deathbed are just like, man, I wish I'd have played with my kids more. And a lot of people will look at that and say, hey, that's a very successful individual. And it's just super interesting because what they're saying is almost directly against that. And I think that's because we as people are more than the work, or we're more than that professional identity. And so I just think it would be foolish, at least for me, to define my professional identity without actually thinking about that. And so I do want to bring that in. And so to me, like, I guess what I would say is, okay, in a year, am I successful? I think I'd look at where I'm at now and just, hey, am I managing the business well? Are we profitable? Are we still like delivering Google ads at a high quality? And then am I in a good place overall? Am I like a better person than I was? Is my family better because of me and my business? I don't want my kids to hate my business as they're growing up. So, anyways, yeah, I think that's how I view success, which is way more than just simply, I'd like to be double revenue or something.
Yeah, I like that. I've always subscribed to this definition of success by Earl Nightingale. My favorite one by far is success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. So
Hmm,
basically, if you have a goal
that's
and
cool.
you're striving towards that goal, you're a success. So he says if your goal is to be the best mom you can be and you're striving towards that, you're a success. If you're a teacher and your goal is to give the best classes that you possibly can, make sure your students are engaged, make sure they're learning, you're a success. If and
Yeah, I
it's
like
not an
that. Yeah.
end destination. It's not
Mhm.
something that I arrive at. It's something that I'm living every single day. And one of my favorite quotes, and this comes back to the deathbed analogy of we regret the things that we didn't do more than the things that we did do. And to me, that just shows sometimes if your gut tells you something and you should be taking risks at a particular endeavor, on your deathbed, you're going to regret that you didn't do
Hmm,
it more than if you did it and you failed. And
hmm.
that's
Yeah.
completely fine. But I'm curious, and I love your philosophy on success. I completely subscribe to that. If you had to put a number to it, if you had to think about it, what do you think that would be? Or is that not something that you care about? If you just want to stay where you're at, that's completely fine too.
Yeah. I like, in terms of where I'm at personally with income, but like I'm at a place where I'm super happy with where we're at. I wouldn't mind like also one of those, hey, I think it'd be fun to have, I think it's 20%. Like we're at a certain place and I'm like, I think it'd be cool to have this 20% more. It's kind of this round number. I'm like, that'd be fun. And also like if we don't get that by next year, it's kind of okay, whatever.
Yeah,
I
it's not
like I
that
get
deep.
to drive a fun car, which I really like. Again, that there's just aspects where I'm trying to be wise and then also take advantage of life and enjoy it too at the same time. So, yeah. So, I don't know,
Yeah,
just trying to do the best we can.
I love it, man. I'm curious if you were to think about that goal of 20% growth, What do you think would be the biggest not setback, but I guess roadblock challenge to getting there?
I'm not entirely sure. It might be, I don't know, to be honest. Should have thought of that a little bit better beforehand.
That's okay. I
Because
guess
there's certain aspects where like I'll take a look at my business, and because this is probably part of what you're asking is just, yeah, what are some opportunities and that sort of thing. I think probably on the team management goals and process, that would be my answer actually. Now that I think of it more, is probably like this process. I think there are ways that someone who has a deeper corporate and agency background is going to understand ways to have more standardized process in that than I currently have, that probably would make things a little more efficient.
got it.
And I can totally see that, and I'm taking steps to learn that and all that. I think there are pros and cons to the fact that I don't have an agency background, because there's probably like also things I've avoided, but I could see that.
Got
Even
it.
just adding, and I say that because even just adding a few more individuals onto our team, I'm just having to rethink a lot of, oh, how do we communicate well with the team? How do we think through, this is a standard way that we do search ads as opposed to shopping ads or things like that, and still allow the team to have their own ways of digging in and trying new things and be their own people, as well as here's the Zato way that we do this stuff. I think there's some opportunity there.
Yeah, for sure. Streamlined operations, and then that
Mhm.
could lead to a higher quality of standard when it comes to client results, and if it's streamlined, then you can potentially bring on more clients and not have to turn people down. Curious, when it comes to
As
the sorry, go for it.
No, I was gonna say, as well as I think some of it is just like a service-based industry, communication with the client is so essential, right? And
Mm,
some of what I've learned with a process sort of a thing is like getting client buy-in, because you can clearly communicate what it is that you're doing and what the potential path is. And that's not even, and this is something I'm learning with this sort of thing, is that's not even telling them, hey, we're for sure going to hit your revenue target or something, but it's just being able to say, here's how we view this next test to hopefully accomplish your goals, and be able to get buy-in and just keep people aware of stuff, because we have the process enough to lay that out. And I think that's a big part of where I would say is an opportunity for us to improve right now. Is sometimes I've actually experienced this, where sometimes we're getting results and we're actually just not really communicating that well to the client.
mm,
And I think sometimes that's just because we just don't really have a process for that. So we just are doing that. We need to
yeah.
improve that. So hopefully that kind of helps with what I mean by that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I'm super curious. Let's dive into this fairly quickly. When it comes to the client acquisition piece, when you're looking to generate leads for Zato and bring on more clients, what are you leveraging there? What channels do you utilize?
Yeah. I basically run zero ads at this point. So we basically don't pay for advertising, but we put quite a bit of energy into like content development. And some people call that inbound or what have you. But that's just part of what I've tried to do, is through a variety of just like email stuff and social media and like speaking at conferences and just engaging in various ways with various people, so that me as a person or we as a brand are someone that's someone thinks about when it says, hey, Google Ads, oh, you should try this guy. And what we found overall is that really is really good and helpful. And actually, I've been a little nervous. Hey, what will happen with, let's say, even the realm of AI and LLMs and that, with ChatGPT and Google and all that? We've started getting leads now where they're telling us, because we ask a question, where'd you hear of this? Just to see what they come up with. And like we're getting more and more like LLMs as answers in there. Like I just talked to a guy yesterday and he found us on Grok. So I'm like,
So
okay. So
maybe the work that is done for SEO is applicable
Mhm.
for LLMs, potentially.
I think that's for sure part of it, as well as all the other stuff, because LLMs are
For
probably
sure.
pulling from a bunch of things, right? So that's part of what I've just tried to like to get. I don't know, just to communicate out there. That's marketing, right? Just have a brand, have people who are aware that you exist. And sometimes that's all it takes. Do a good job and have people be aware that you exist.
Yeah, fair enough. It's pretty simple. What about the sales process? So, are you the one hopping on these sales calls? How do you run those? Just briefly walk me through that.
Sure. I'm probably on 70% of sales calls. I am not a type A personality. I hated sales before. I hated the idea of sales. And I have learned that I actually can be fairly skilled at that. And I think some of it is actually that aversion, because like my objective is not to have this magical corporate way of telling you here's exactly how I let me try to determine what your problems are and then like I'll address those and answer those. If I start doing that, I don't know, I just look like weird and fake. And I just really have tried to have almost this is my personality, just chat with you thing. I genuinely want to understand their business better. I genuinely want to see if we can help. And like I get excited about seeing, oh, maybe we will figure out XYZ problem. And I've just found when you just start talking to people in a way where you're not trying to like aggressively sell them and you're just showing them that you're actually interested in them and that you're like this real person, they shockingly, right? People respond to that. And then like I said, we actually do filter quite a bit beforehand too. So a lot of times by the time we get on a call, there's a fairly high potential for us of like actually landing that if things work out in the pricing and stuff like that too. You asked about the process. So we'll typically have, so we get an inbound lead. Sometimes they'll hit me up over social media or that, but a lot of times they're just going to our website and filling out this form. We'll take that. If it looks like it could be a great fit, we'll move to what we call a discovery call. And that's where we just try to get to know them a little bit. They ask us questions. Then we move to a discovery audit where we hop into their account and just see if we can, what are some opportunities or things that we see in here. We deliver that to them. Again, this is a little abnormal. So we do this written audit, and then I typically will shoot a little video with that, just this connection, and even screen share and walk them through some of the key points of ours, just a real visual connection. But like we almost never actually schedule a follow-up call, which again, like that breaks every sales thing in the book. But like our close rate is fairly decent. And again, I just think it's one of those, I'm just a show your work guy. It's kind of if we can deliver it in a way where they see what we're doing, they're like, wow, we think you found some great opportunities. They are contacting us back wanting to move forward or schedule a follow-up call or whatever. And so it's this no obligation, laid back sort of a process that works pretty well in my experience. So
I like it. What is the best way for people to reach out to you to work with you?
you can go to our website, zatomarketing.com, or I'm a loudmouth on social about Google stuff. I'm PPC Kirk, and like pretty much on every single social platform, I'm PPC Kirk. So
Nice.
if you Google PPC Kirk, you'll find me.
There you go. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Anytime. So that wraps up another insightful episode of Founders Future. To our listeners, if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to go to zatomarketing.com. You can also follow PPC Kirk everywhere, and make sure that you subscribe to Founders Future, please, wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. And if you are a business owner, specifically a coach, consultant, or an agency, and you're looking to scale your business and you really want to enhance your sales and marketing efforts, visit closers.io to discover how we can support your growth journey. Until then, keep on climbing.